Welcome to another episode of Investing in Intellectual Property with Dave. Today we have a very special guest with us. This gentleman has created a platform that makes booking reservations, purchasing tickets, and booking tea times extremely easy, and which has been featured on the hit show Shark Tank. Please help me welcome Mo Bachelor. How's it going, Mo?
Hey, it's going very well, and it's great to be with you today.
Oh, for sure. And definitely appreciate you taking some time out of your day to
Yeah.
talk with me a little bit about your story and what you're doing with Bot It, which is keeping you busy, it seems like these days.
Oh yeah.
And I guess kind of before getting into that, I kind of want to kind of peel back the onion a little bit and kind of talk about, I guess, life before Bot It, in terms of your background, your experience level. I know you did a lot of things with building and scaling businesses and uh, kind of dealing with the legal division of Zoom. I'm not sure if that was during the pandemic or whatnot, but we all know Zoom had kind of took off during that time.
Oh
But can
yeah.
you talk a little bit about, I guess, your background and kind of what you did prior to Bot It?
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to thank you for allowing me to be on your podcast today. For what you're bringing to your audience is important, and I really appreciate hearing some of your previous podcasts and things like that. So, for listeners out there, please make sure that when you're looking into this type of stuff, intellectual property, it's important to be able to be aware of that. So I just appreciate that, and I look forward to sharing my story. A little bit about my background. So software engineering is kind of like where I got started, just building software. I always had a passion for that for a very long time. So building technology, building products, working through services to be able to understand where technology can fit into solving a problem. And that's always had a knack for that. So, I started my first company where I built an app where sports teams integrated inside their app to engage with fans during downtime of live events. So, if you go to a sporting event, you download the team's app, you'll be able to, interact with different games and interact with questions, trivia, and stuff like that. So that was kind of my first claim to fame, if you want to say, when it came to getting into the entrepreneurship space and starting a business and understanding what needs to be the process of getting a business started. Then
Right.
after that, I was a part of several other startups, which are in the commercial real estate space. And you talked about getting into like the legal space and things like that. So I've been around the block as far as getting businesses started, being part of early teams, seeing companies start from the beginning and going all the way to exits, successful exits. So that's something that even before Bought It, I was something very comfortable with it and had a lot of experience and a lot of trial and error. Let's go through a lot of trial and error with it. So my experience has been a lot more on the product side and building out technology, but seeing processes through businesses from such as sales, going into the legal portion of it, just business in general, just something that I've always been a part of and excited to do it. You
Yeah,
just have to be excited to be a part of that.
absolutely. And absolutely. I know we were talking a little bit offline about especially people of color and whether it's
Yeah,
intellectual property law or whether it's kind of building businesses, having successful, being able to scale and sell successful business,
right,
or even
right,
doing computer engineering. Me coming up as a mechanical engineer, and I can tell you just from kind of my story a little bit as far as, I mean, I didn't even know what an engineer was just because growing up, I wasn't seeing that when I went outside and things like that.
right.
And then it wasn't until I got to Michigan State and my cousin was an attorney. He said, "Hey, you like math and science, do engineering," which was some great advice that ended up paying dividends for me. As far as a computer engineer or a computer scientist, why don't you think? And it seems like maybe it's changing a little more now with the information. But why don't you think maybe people of color go into those kind of fields a little bit more compared to maybe the artistic or some of those other
Yeah,
fields that
you
we
you
are
you
kind
you
of
you
fine.
you hit it right on the head when you talked about growing up. You didn't even know what an engineer was, or you never even heard of the term, or you didn't even see anybody that looked like you who was able to show some form of success be an engineer. So I think that that's changing because of generations are now getting into going to college, getting exposed to these type of positions, and And it's going to grow. It does take time, but it is growing. So I think that the reason that is the case is it's just simply what you see in the media. When you see a person of color, when you see somebody successful, you try to what does that typically look like? When you look on media, you see a basketball player,
Right.
you see a musician, you see somebody of color that is very successful doing those type of things. But and as you're growing up, you the knowledge that you have, like, hey, this. Not saying that it's not meant for everybody, because if you're a musician, if you're meant to be a musician, be a musician. But
Right.
there is other opportunities out there, and I'm proud of what we're doing as far as you're in law, and I'm in the technology space. I think that's something that we're going to change that perception. You doing this podcast, you doing things like that, me being on Shark Tank and being exposed like that for our business, and actually having a product that's live in the market and actually doing well. So those are things that will change the dynamic of the way that the future generations look at entrepreneurship, look at engineering, look at business in general. And I think that there's a lot of space that can be filled with people of color, that's very talented people. But we just got to make sure that we put ourselves out there and we can showcase that this can be done, and it will take time, but it can be done, and we will inspire that next generation.
No, and I couldn't agree with you. Couldn't agree more with you on everything you
Yeah,
just said.
yeah,
As it relates to the entrepreneurs side of things, because I guess that's another thing that you don't see a lot of us in terms
right,
of the entrepreneurial realm with regard to the technology side of things. It seems like a lot of times we are, happy to maybe kind of work for someone else, or sometimes we kind of start our own businesses. But at least
right,
from kind of what I can see, based on my experiences, that's been maybe in say not maybe the skilled trades, but uh, it doesn't involve or revolve around starting our business within the tech
right.
space. It seems like that maybe is coming a little bit coming along a little bit more now. But did you always want to be an entrepreneur, or is that something that you just found out about a little bit more over time and kind of
Did I
just
always want to take the bashing of being an
hey,
entrepreneur
that's pretty
and
much
the
what it
day-to-day?
is.
No, no. So like, I would say I always had that knack of business. But ever since I was young, and just selling things and creating things, and I used to, even when I remember as a teenager, I used to post on apartment buildings that fix computers under $99 will fix your computer. Like, I remember always doing those type of things and working with computers. So I had always that entrepreneurship bug inside of me.
Gotcha.
And it's the different things in life that pulled it out even more, seeing success in it, and seeing things that kind of kept me motivated to keep that going. So entrepreneurship, it's something that it's not easy to do. I don't like to. I know a lot of people think that the word entrepreneurship equals success, or if you start a business, it'll be successful. No, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of things that you have to be aware of, and that you must be able to go through the ropes with it. And it's every day. It's even when you do have success, there's going to be more things to try to knock you down. So entrepreneurship, no matter who you are, is going to be and there's no process that's going to be the same. If I wrote my book and told you my story, if you followed that same story, that same path, then you more than likely won't be successful, because of the fact that my story is going to be unique to me, and same as yours. Everybody's story is going to be unique. So it's something that you just growing up, entrepreneurship in my family wasn't something that everybody did. So it's something that just came to me naturally, though, throughout just my journey.
No, yeah, and I think that's a good point. It's not like it seems like entrepreneur is getting this kind of sexy, like
Right.
it's like a sexy title where everybody likes to
Yeah,
say, "Hey,
yeah,
I'm an
yeah.
entrepreneur," and
Right.
as you alluded to, especially if having had success in different areas, man, it's a lot of long days, sleepless
Oh
nights,
yeah. Oh
like you
yeah.
said,
Oh yeah.
just getting a bashing or having a be the fall guy when things don't go right. But again, it's like you said, and what you're saying in terms of you can tell at different points growing up that you maybe have a little bit in you, and then like you said, as you continue to go on, sometimes it maybe gets pulled out.
Right.
And if you're one of those people who are seeing some of those things that you're displaying or showing early on, maybe I guess that's
Right.
something that you can at least try to pursue. So then right before bought it, uh, what were you what what were you into at that point, or what were you doing just before getting off into starting a company bought it?
So yeah, so I was at the company called LegalZoom. So what we did at LegalZoom was pretty much if you're looking to start a business or do anything legal related to your company, LegalZoom can kind of streamline that process for you. It make things a little bit easier. So at that time, I was building the mobile division for LegalZoom, where we were kind of transitioning everything from our legacy website and different things like that, and building out a whole mobile infrastructure, mobile division for the side of the business, which was very, very big at the time. So, so that was kind of what I was doing right before they went public. That was kind of that was my transition. And then I started Bot It and really started Bot It to build out that process.
Okay. Now, and this is an interesting question before, like, I guess jumping in about it.
Yep.
Do you was it like did you look forward to working with companies prior to the IPO? Because again, that's something that's interesting in and of itself in terms of
Yeah.
getting with maybe startups. And I know a lot of times the employees, they kind of compensate them with maybe giving them some shares and something like that of the
Yeah.
company prior to going public, so you can benefit of that. Now the pay may be a little lower, but again, I would imagine that a lot of people kind of take that approach of working with different startups because you don't have that bureaucracy of bigger companies, but also you can participate in the success of an IPO launch or something along the lines of
Right.
that. So was that kind of strategic, or was it
Yeah.
just kind of happenstance?
Right, that's a great question. That's a great question. It was very strategic in a way where I think that I knew where LegalZoom at the time was around for like 15, 17 years when I
Wow.
joined. I knew that they were going to be going public soon. And personally, I really like working with startups.
Yeah.
I really enjoy working with startups. I like working with early stage companies. I'm very comfortable in that space. Joining LegalZoom, which, like I said, was around 15 to 17 years when I joined it, so a little bit further along than the
Yep.
early stage typical startup. But the what intrigued me about the position of before joining LegalZoom was that they had their mobile division did not exist. So I was kind of just starting. It was kind of like a startup within a bigger business, and that's kind of what attracted me to the position, where I knew that I was going to start from the ground up. I had a certain funds that I could work with in order to build out a team, be able to build this brand new product. So it kind of gave me that entrepreneurship startup bug, even though it was a larger size company. It was cool to be a part of that. And then you talked about going on being part of a publicly traded company, seeing it from not public to or private to actually going public. That process, it was interesting because as you're going through vesting your shares and going through that and seeing your shares, it pays off very well in the sense of if you put in the work, you put in the time, being a part of something like when LegalZoom went public, it was something that very financially beneficial, but it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work, and like I said, you got to go through your vesting schedule. So and a lot of people out there are going through that. So I know people that, for example, work at Amazon or something like that, where they're already public, so you do get shares and you do get to go through a vesting schedule. Those are always beneficial. I always tell people that some people just want to say, "Hey, I'd rather take the money up front." If that's something that you do need, everybody has their different financial situations, but I would tell you in the long run, going with equity route, going with stocks and things like that, that'll take you a little bit further, depending on how the company is going. You got to make your own business decisions as far as what's best for your family. But, going with equity is typically a better long-term play over a course of period of time.
Oh yeah, and that's a good point. And again, just kind of bringing it back to like this, the I guess just the minority group of things. I mean,
Right.
I think that's something that should be looked at more, and I think it's gonna, I guess, be a little bit our responsibility of kind of treating our money right at the beginning when we get it, because I think that's a big
Right.
part of it. You mentioned, hey, just needing the money, and putting aside for a second whether or not you believe in a company and things like that, which is a different story. But to the extent that you are able to build up a nice size war chest or savings or whatever you want to call it, to the point where you don't need this, you're not living
Yeah.
check to check, so to speak. Which
Right.
again, I think
Right.
that's
Right.
just a function of our spending habits a lot of the times. Uh,
Right.
but to the extent that you can do that, you can take equity in a company, like you said. You're talking with,
Yeah.
I mean, we always also like to throw around the term generational wealth and financial
Yep.
freedom and things like that. Those man, once you get equity in a company and like that
Yep.
vest, that's I was just on Detroit on Sunday, and I went to
Hmm.
a buddy who, and he played this perfectly. He was with a law firm. We went to law school together, so he was with a
Okay.
law firm, and then he went to a cannabis company, and he was
Okay.
in-house there. It was a startup cannabis company, and he had to work there for a number of years before his equity vest. So he worked there for a
Yep.
number of years, his equity vest, and then the law firm that he was with, they just made him a crazy offer to the point where he had to go back, and now
Oh
he
wow.
just made partner at the law firm. So just think about that. You go into, to a company, a kind of or whatever, a company that now you have equity in that vest, and then you go back to the law firm on a crazy deal, and now you become partner a couple years later. It's like, man, he played that perfectly, where he get
Yeah.
how he's a partner, but also he has equity in his company. It's
And we're just talking about this. I was talking with a friend about it. Cash on hand, like I said, it depends on your situation. Cash on hand is great, but if you have ownership in something, think about the long term play to that, and how even if it's something that pays off dividends, or if it's something like having long term ownership in things is going to. You talk about that generational wealth. Getting a paycheck, like I said, we all need that. We all have bills and things like that. But having equity, having a stake into something is going to give you a better play in the long run for not only you, but also your family. So I highly recommend people do a little bit of learning on how to, what that means for them. But like I said, everybody's situation is different. But just as you talked about with your friend, that like playing that for the long term and not taking the, of course, everybody wants the money up front, but
right.
if you look at it from a long term and invest your time, invest your energy, invest your talent into something, then they could potentially blossom into something much bigger than what you even could even imagine, if you just be patient with it. So,
Uh,
that's something that I always like to share with people.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you on
Yeah.
that one. So then moving on about it, you're at
Yep.
Legal
Yep.
Zoom, it seems like at this point. I'm assuming that some, the equity vest or whatnot, and now it's
Yep.
like, okay, what's the next thing? What made you decide, okay, I'm going to start botted? And maybe before getting off into that, can you maybe explain for the viewers and the audience what botted is?
Sure, sure. So, Botted is a website and mobile app that uses artificial intelligence to complete online tasks. So, you know how when you go online, and you talked about it earlier, to reserve a table at your favorite restaurant, book a golf tee time, or buy concert tickets, they're gone in like a second. That's because an online robot just outbeat you to book that reservation. So we help people, the 99% of people who don't know how to build a bot or know what a bot is, to build a bot. It's just like a way our system is able to, you're able to say, like, hey, here's the website, here's the steps I want this bot to do. And our system just handles everything and no technical requirements needed. So it's just a very easy way to streamline setting up automation, and the modern way of setting up automation online.
Gotcha. So what made you think about, I guess, this, and more importantly, building a business off this concept? Because I mean, again, that's a big thing where, like you said, you're
Yeah,
going, especially with purchasing tickets and reservations, where it's like,
yeah,
oh man, that reservation at that time, whatever the case may be, I was beat out. I guess maybe prior to this, I didn't think it was about. I just thought it was somebody else on the other line who beat me out. But that's crazy that it's a robot or whatnot that's kind of doing it for someone else to
oh yeah.
uh kind of reserve those times or purchase those tickets. So what made you want to kind of build a business off this concept?
That's a great question. So one day I was just sitting at home and talking with a friend, and they're not technical at all. So they were like, "Man, I got to go do this every day at 7 a.m. I got to wake up and log into this site and check the status of something." I'm like, why don't you just build a bot? Just I said that jokingly. I knew what a bot was, but they didn't know what a bot was, and so I just started to explain what it was. And I'm like, you know what? It's at the time it was 2019. I was like, it's 2019. There has to be some service out there that I can just go on a website, not pay a lot of money, and not be a technical person, and just set up some sort of automation. Then I just started looking around, and I was like, man, there's really not anything out there, and I can find products very easily. I'm really good at that, but I just was like, you know what? There's nothing out there that's kind of fitting for this situation where this person needs like 3-4 steps done, and then they just need to, they didn't want to pay a lot of money. They didn't want to pay thousands of dollars to do that. So I was like, you know what, it's a marketplace for this. So I released this proof. I started to build this proof of concept. Then we launched it in about 2020, 2021, around there, and it just started to take off. Like it was just like, everybody just was like, hey, I need a bot for that. I would like to solve this and all this other stuff. And then of course with like the big push with Chat GPT, that was a big help for us because it was everybody's like, hey, like we knew about the AI stuff, the big boom that's coming, and we've already started building that in 2019 with Bot. So like it was something that we were preparing for, but it just kind of all came at the same time. And now that people are comfortable, and Mark Cuban said it best, now that people are comfortable with processes like Chat GPT, they can they're comfortable with the service like Botted and very comfortable with setting up their own automation and kind of getting that started and using our platform. And we make it very easy for just anyone to set up a bot. So we were in the right time. It's just timing. Timing was perfect when it came to Botted, and we're excited to be a part of something where we're changing the way people set up online automation. And that's kind of where the genesis of how the company started. Just seeing the demand for people wanting to use a service like Botted.
So, and that's interesting. I actually was interviewing Dan Klitsner, who invented Bop It back in the day, and it was something that he said that always is going to stick with me in terms of you have to be right. And when he said that, he talked about right, RITE, in terms of relationships. You have to have the ideal, the timing, and the execution. When you initially had this ideal, kind of talking with a friend and kind of jokingly throwing out, just use a bot to go in and do your thing. So it seems like you identified, you looked online and whatnot, and seeing that, okay, it's nothing that will be able to help out. But I guess this seemed like this was maybe before, like you said, Chat GPT and really AI kind of, maybe it was bubbling or whatnot. How did you go about kind of thinking of, okay, it's a market for it in terms of, because it's one thing to have an idea, but then, okay, it's another thing for it to be a market for it that people actually want to purchase it. And then the other thing is like the timing of it in terms of, okay,
Right.
well, AI and Chat GPT and all that it's kind of bubbling on that space. So I guess how did you come to those conclusions as it relates to the timing and the market?
No, that's a great question because of the fact that like I get this a lot where people want to know what's that follow through to actually spark it to build it up, and that's a question that a lot of people ask, but it's really based off. You got to look at what you're good at. So I was able to say, all right, I like this idea. I do see a marketplace, and a lot of people have that process. A lot of people can do that. A lot of people know they see holes in places where they can, see opportunities. So what I looked at with Botted was like, all right, what can I do personally in order to fix this? So I knew with my engineering background that I could build an app, I could architect the entire system. I can do this just to see if this would actually stick. And that's what I did. So I started to just build out a proof of concept to be able to see like, hey, if I release this to the world, will people adapt to it? Will people adjust to it? Will people find it useful? And that's kind of like where just I started how I was able to be motivated to keep this, just to start it. It's just that I knew that what I believed in, and then also what I potentially saw. And like I said, you talk about being right. You got to be to a point where you got to assume that you are going to be right, because you are going to invest time, you are going to invest money, and you are going to make sacrifices in order to make that assumption that you are going in the right direction with this idea. So like being able to put all those together, and that's where we kind of came up with where we are today, is that, and still even today, we're still trying things out and making sure that we are making better educated decisions as funding is coming in and things like that. Want to make sure that your business is making the right choices to prepare for the future, but also prepare for where you are right now. So that's something that, I always encourage people who are at that idea stage. How do you get from point A to point B? Is really just look at what you do well. Look at your talent. What can you do with the company? And everybody that's thinking, oh, if I had $1 million, or if I had even $500,000 or $200,000, I can build amazing. Like, no, try to take that out of it. Try to think about like what you can do personally to be able to say, all right, now I have like intellectual property around this. I'm building this up and I have protection against it. Now let's see how this is in the market. Like those are the things that you have to do very early on to see like, hey, you know what? I'm guessing that 2 years from now, this is going to be successful. So it's just those things that you got to be able to tell yourself and to kind of have in your mind to see something come to, to where it's at today.
Right. No, exactly. And I know you talked about the intellectual property, and before kind of peeling that back a little bit more,
Yeah.
it seems like you had talked about, okay, with your buddy, the personal use of it, but then also you had mentioned the business use of it. So
Oh
you maybe
yeah.
kind of talk a little bit about those different applications of somebody, because it seems like it's used for if I personally wanted to use the product, but also if I have a business or it's a business out there
Yeah.
that wants to use a product. So can you talk about a little bit more about those different applications and what personal use is for, and maybe or personal uses can be, and what business uses can be?
Absolutely, absolutely. And business is one of the main targets for our company. At the end of the day, automation is automation. So like if you're automating a golf tee time, or if you're automating something, a service for your business, it all comes down to automation.
Right.
So our businesses, yes, that we work for consumers, and you talk about golf tee times, you talk about things like that, but we also work for businesses. So if you have a business and you don't have a big team, or if you don't have a big budget that you can be around development and building software, our system is able to automate processes for you. It's able to automate complex workflows for you. If you need data entry, all those different things that our system can be able to easily set you up and automate for you, we do that. And we do it at a very affordable price as well. So that's something that, we kind of got our start on working direct to consumers, and we still do that today. But the business to business side is something that we look to continue to, and we've been growing so fast in that sector with our business ever since Shark Tank. So that's something that we're going to be growing over the next couple of years with our business.
No, and I'll have to, but I'll have to really take a hard look at for myself, because I'm also kind of in a real estate space, and
Okay.
you hear a lot of with the VAs, the virtual assistants, to do
Yeah.
some things
Oh
out,
yeah.
for like calling and stuff like that. That's one thing. But as far as this data entry or manual labor, something that it may be definitely worth a look in terms of just having body perform those functions
Yeah.
as opposed to having to have a VA or whatever perform that
Absolutely.
manual labor. It may be a lot more cost effective. So then I guess going to the intellectual property side of things, because we all know that's our competitive advantage in the marketplace, whether it's a trade
Yeah.
secret, whether it's a patent, trademark, whatever the case may be, copyright. What was the type of intellectual property that uh that you created, whether it's a patent or copyright? And then I guess how did you come to the conclusion of taking steps on protecting it? Because it seems like you have already experience in the know of that prior businesses scaling and selling off or whatnot. So it's not like a lot of people are trying to figure this out for the first time, and they're literally going on Google to type out or try to figure this stuff out step by step. But I mean, I guess you already had that, I would imagine that you already had that experience doing it. So I guess how did you navigate that process as it relates to the IP?
So David, just a lot of things come with trial and error. So I stated earlier my history of business. So is some things that I had to go through that I'm that unfortunately I had to go through. And so that kind of taught me to where I am today. But don't get me wrong. At the time, I was not happy about what I had to, what not be protecting myself and stuff like that. Kind of came in, came back to bite you. So that's one thing that I always look at with any product that I'm working on. Like, what's the intellectual property associated with it? And it doesn't necessarily, because software sometimes can be a little bit more difficult to patent per se,
For sure.
but you should trademark your product or whatever the case that whatever you're working on. Just to have some sort of protection so people won't infringe on whatever that trademark or that patent or whatever the case may be.
Or you
So
get a copyright on some code or whatnot.
right. Yes. So that's what we so yeah, and so what we do and our legal team takes care of that stuff for us where it came to our trademarks and our intellectual property, different things like that we kind of build that protection around us to be able to create body. And we wanted to make sure that we were at that stage because you know what? It's going to be it comes back if you don't know what's going to get popular. Like you just want to make sure that that's kind of taken care of before, because when it's too late, it's too late. You want to make sure that you have your protection early on in order to protect yourself as the company grows.
And that's a part of, again, the podcast. And what I'm trying to do is to inform
Yeah.
people on intellectual property and not only the importance of it. Heck, when you go to sell a company or even try to go get investments, a lot of times you shit on Shark Tank, people will ask, the sharks will ask, hey, do you
Do
have a
you have
patent on
yeah.
this?
Yep.
So
Yep.
is the IP protected? Because that's the leverage that you're going to be able to have when it's time to go sell. They're buying the IP as much as they're buying a business. And I was talking to a lady who was referred to me the other day, and she was trying to get a patent on something. And unfortunately, these in the US here, you have a year when you publicly disclose it before you can file on it. And if you don't file within that year, then you're barred from filing on that particular invention. And she had been, the invention was actually pretty cool, but she had been working with manufacturer who also, it seems like, had some stores, 42 stores that they were going to
Oh
put the
wow.
product in. And her just not knowing, she waited 2 years and before, she called someone like me to try to protect the invention. And I had to tell her, like, there's nothing we can do. You publicly disclose. You gave this company all the drawings and stuff like that. You didn't have an NDA. You didn't have any
Oh
confidentiality
wow.
agreement in place. So now it's a public disclosure, and over a year has passed. So it's nothing that we can do. And unfortunately, she was someone who looked like us. So again, that's the part of, man, I had to be the bearer of
Yeah.
bad news at that point, but that's part in terms of being informed, get the education, because these things, you never know how valuable they can be later on. And then, so then when you see this stuff 5, 10 years later, you say, oh, they stole my ideal or I had that ideal. And like, okay,
Yeah. You didn't protect yourself.
right,
So
for sure.
yeah, and that's unfortunate because a lot of people, especially of color, when they start something, they are usually the first one in their families to start something. So in their mindset, they already have like I'm passionate about it. I'm being pulled to do it, but it's not going to blow up. It's not going to get big. So you really just aren't thinking about those things early on. So you really just trying to figure out like, hey, I have this product that I'm building, but I'm just focused on building the product. I'm not worried about filing any patents or anything like that because that's not important to me right now. So like I feel like, and you hit it right on the head. It's like, you know what, those are the things we got to change that mindset because that's what's really going to protect us down the line and be able to build out that generational wealth and be able to take on investors, be able to have something that is tangible where people are interested in it, because sometimes the patent is more important than the product that you're actually building, because sometimes you may not be the right person to build what you have a patent on, but the patent itself may be of value where you can actually have an investor come on and build the right product for you based off your patent. But if you own that patent, you still own the rights to that product or that product that is being built.
And case in point, I literally just had an interview yesterday who it was a gentleman. They started the company. I'm not sure if you heard Paddle Smash. It was actually on Shark Tank as well.
Ooh.
It takes essentially a combination of spike ball and pickleball, which we all know pickleball is a growing game here in the,
Yeah.
North America. So it took those elements and combined it into a game called Paddle Smash. And again, like I said, they were on Shark Tank, but the
Okay.
two guys who own the company, they weren't the creator of the IP. A guy by the name of Joe Bingham had 7 kids, I think, out in Utah. He invented the game, but he
Mm.
didn't want to build the business or anything around it. He ended up kind of was friends with one of the guys and was like, okay, let's figure this thing out. So he
Right.
owns or he doesn't own the patent, but he's an inventor on the patent, and
Right.
he essentially assigned his rights to Tim and Scott, who built the company up off of
Got
it, and
it.
they give him a royalty. So now
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
every quarter he's collecting a royalty check just for having invented the game and invented the game, even though he's not running a business. He has no interest in dealing with the day-to-day of running the business,
Right.
we all talked about, which we talked about earlier, is can be, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for everybody, but
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
having that IP, having that invention, he was able to license it to someone who took the baton and can go forward with it, bring things to just kind of bring things out to reality or to the forefront and pay him a royalty. So again, I
Yeah.
think to your point, this is another a way about doing things that we should look at harder.
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of knowing the right people in good circles and things like that, where
Yeah.
those type of
Or
opportunities
podcasts
can
like
exist.
you're doing now.
Sure,
Listen to these
absolutely.
podcasts. So yeah, so this is why, like, this stuff is important, that what you're putting out there and what you're trying to do, your voice is going to make a difference. People are going to stumble across this podcast and really take that serious and really see that, hey, intellectual property, that could be a lot of people. I would even imagine a lot of people they just have intellectual property.
Right.
They create patents on things, and that's their business. That's how they live off these royalties of what they create. They don't even have businesses. They just the business of creating patents and being able or buying patents and selling patents. That's what they do. There's really really people out there doing that. So take that part of your business very seriously, and that's where I'm glad that you're putting this out there and exposing this world, or that world of IP, because it's something that we need to really dive into with our businesses.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then getting back to body, what was the
Yeah.
point of saying, okay, let's go on Shark Tank? Because look at I've interviewed over the last several months a number of people who've been on Shark Tank, and I've learned a lot more about the inner workings of the show as it relates to having to apply for it. Some people, one guest they were Turbo Trust who ended up striking a deal with Kevin O'Leary, and it seems like that panned out, but they were denied the first time and ended up going back the
Oh,
second time and kind of getting accepted and striking a deal. Then I had, like I said, the gentleman yesterday with Paddle Smash. He was on the show, and he actually was different because he was at a trade show, and it seems like one of the producers of Shark Tank reached out to him to say, "Hey, apply." And he had a sour taste because he had applied to Shark Tank, or he was on Shark Tank maybe 10 years or so earlier with his niece, and the episode didn't air, and they didn't get a deal. But it seemed like this time around with Paddle Smash, that episode aired obviously, and they got a deal with I think it was Rob and Mark Cuban, but
mhm.
the deal, which again I found out a lot of those deals who maybe a deal on TV doesn't necessarily come into fruition, which okay, that's cool. So what made you kind of say, okay, let's go on Shark Tank and try to get
Uh,
the investment for it?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the show in itself is going to expose your business. So like that's honestly the main point to being on the show, being able to get that publicity with your business. It's something that we're very honored and blessed to be able to go through that process. So the decision to go on Shark Tank, that is funny you mentioned it, because everybody's story is different. Even I guess even the entrepreneurs that we were on the same day and saw them on stage, some of them were like, "Hey, I applied a year ago. I applied 2 months ago, and like they found a way there." So ours was very interesting. So the timeline of that. Well, first off, we're a tech business. Um, you really don't see a lot of tech companies on Shark Tank. You see them here and there. They're spotted into the different seasons. But you really don't see a really internet-based companies on Shark Tank. So it was something that I was when we started applying to it. I didn't think anything of it. I just was like, you know what? Let's just apply and see what happens. And then we applied, and then they said, hey, can you create a video? And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like we can create a video, and we created a video. Then it started to just kind of keep going further and further. And you're like, wow, this actually, man, I would say like about a month and a half, or maybe up to a month before we actually went and filmed. We were like, hey, we actually made it on. We actually met with all the producers and all that stuff, and actually, got to the end of it, because there's we were told about 30,000 applicants per season.
Yep.
So,
Sure.
and you recall, it's probably about between 90 to 110 companies that pitch per season, and then you boil it down, maybe about like 80 to 95 of them actually get aired. So like it really boils down to like, something that like, you don't, the probability gets lower and lower as the season gets closer to filming. So the decision to go on there was really, expose ourselves. Of course, try to land a deal with an investor. That was one of our main goals. There's kind of a backstory on our investment. We haven't raised much money. I invested most of the money into the business just to kind of get things started, and I've had success with other investments and other companies I've been a part of. So really, I just was investing the money into it. And the reason I did that was just ownership. I want to make sure that, and we talk about equity. I want to make sure that the things that I'm working on, I'm going to be majority owner of them, and I have ownership of them, because you never know where things can take off and where things will go. So going onto the show, we didn't really take on, we had, like I said, a very earlier friends and family round of funding. So going onto the show, we really did want investments. We really wanted to land an investor to be able to help grow the business. So those were the two factor elements of the exposure, and actually getting investments and landing a deal was something that that was something our goal of. And then you talked about the aftermath of being on the show, the due diligence process. So we were able to land, with Mark Cuban and Michael Rubin. So
Two
like,
billionaires.
yeah. To be able to, the due diligence process that we had to go through on the show, it's long. It's long because they're going to nitpick every single thing to
I've
make
heard.
sure not only what you say on the show is real, but also the other things that you believe your business is going to, go down that path, a successful path. They're trying to figure that out, just like any investor.
Yep.
They're trying to make sure that what they're investing in is something that's going to be successful. So, so be prepared for that. Any entrepreneurs raising capital, make sure you have lawyers to go over the terms. I've heard horror stories about Shark Tank and some deals that happen behind the scenes and some things like that. So like, just make sure that, because at the end of the day, it's your company. Like you
Right.
can make a decision on what you want to do and how you want to move forward with things. So, but you do want to make sure that you have the right representation in order to somebody that's going to benefit you and have your back. So making sure that you have that is extremely important when we're going through, not only with the sharks, but like any sort of investment in general.
Right. No, for sure. And I at least with Shark Tank, and I'm not going to name the individual, but he was on there, and he actually kind of struck a deal at least on TV with one of the sharks, or with two of the sharks. But then aftermath, he was already well off, and he was saying that just the contract, to your point of the lawyers and making sure you have your legal team set up for this, where the contract that was presented to them, it just gave them so much out to get their money back, to the point where it was like it's not even an equity investment anymore. So they
Right.
didn't do the deal. I guess in your all's case, because again, I think, like you said, the tech companies, they're kind of far and few between on the show.
Mhm.
However, I think out of all the sharks, Mark Cuban is probably more so the techiest, if you will, and
Oh
kind
yeah.
of understands that lane. So it seems like on his face, then obviously Mike Rubin is seems like a really cool guy. So on his face, it seems like you were kind of getting the best of both worlds. Is that, I guess, did it work out, or it, was it one of those things that did cross the finish line, or like, I guess, how, I know you said the aftermath was,
Yeah.
it's
So I'm very proud to say that it didn't work out.
okay.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
reason it did not work out, I know Mark was going through a lot. If you see in the news now,
Yeah.
but and we were able to raise just as the same amount of money that
Mm.
was on the show versus with better valuation.
Wow.
So you look at me, I'm a very happy entrepreneur. Like because the show exposed us to so much. And yeah, and also we're still in talks with Fanatics, which is one of
Okay.
our
Mike Rubin.
potential investors, Michael
Yep.
Rubin. We were talking with them about that on the show, so we're in talks with them and continue to
Nice.
work with them. But as far as capital raising, we were able to raise equivalent and a little bit more than what we were actually going on for the show with in just a month of after airing.
Really?
So yeah, but the deal, like I said, it was a long process, but at the end of the day, I think that what was being asked for our business, the money that was being offered to us at a way better valuation, you got to be able to, like I said, and then you have that representation to be able to say, hey, like what's better for this business, and
Uh,
the valuations we were getting on our other investments were worked out to be much better. So
Nice, nice,
yeah,
nice.
so that's what I'm very proud of. And also the investors who invested post the show are now going to see much more in return because we did not take that deal. We did not take that offer that was given to us. So that's kind of the way it worked out. But it actually is a good story because we had to go to work soon as the show aired. Not only with the investments, but also the business. We just started to grow so fast, and we were a company that was live before we even aired.
Yep.
So we knew that if this was going to work and if this people were going to relate to it, we were going to see the traffic. So all of that kind of came and actually worked out for us. So, but yeah, it was something that we were we wanted the deal to work out. But like I said, at the end of the day, I look at what that deal what we would had to accomplish in order to what they were asking for. It just didn't make sense, from compared to what we were getting offers for. So it was just something that did not work out, unfortunately. But but working with Mark Cuban and working with Michael Rubin, it has been great. They've been very wonderful to work with throughout the process, and and down the line, who knows what could happen with that. But right now, I just think that where we were going and what the other offers we were getting, it would just made more sense for our business not to take that deal.
No, for sure. And it seems like, man, the exposure of just being on the show. I know. Uh, Again, when I was interviewing the gentleman with Paddle Smash yesterday, he said they just been on the show. We essentially did in that weekend what we had done up until that point, which I think they had did maybe 700,000 in sales in like 9 months, and he seemed like they did that just in a weekend of being show airing, which is crazy to
Yeah,
think. I think you
yeah,
guys, as I was kind of checking out the show, it seemed like you guys had just started maybe 3 months in that 30K or
yeah.
whatnot. How have things picked up from just a gross revenue perspective since the show? If maybe you can share that
Yeah,
a little bit.
let's do a quick timeline. We're doing this on December 13th, 2023. So literally 2 months. What is October, November? So yeah, so since October 13th was our air date. So we're literally a couple months right off of that. We did record sales for the month of October, which October 13th, it was October 13th all the way to the end. So we was already halfway through October. We did record sales. And in November, we did record sales, another record month in sales. So like it's been blowing up it's been great. Sales has been
Nice.
doing really well. The company's doing very well as far as us growing. We're getting so much exposure. People are reaching out to us, inquiring about setting up bots and learning how to use our system and hey, can you help me out with this? And businesses are reaching out to us. We're expanding our team. So like this has been, and also the investment. We're closing deals with other investors and we're raising
Nice.
capital at the moment. So Like those are things that's really been working out for us. So the show really has put us in a good position to, and like I said, we were a business that we were already launched prior to Shark Tank. So we kind of, we knew about price points. We knew about technology, how our technology needed to work in order to us to be able to take on customers. So like we had all of that kind of all oiled up and ready for the show. So it's kind of like it just kind of worked out for us post show, but we were prepared for it. It wasn't like something that we were just like $0 in sales or this is an idea. We were actually ready to go, and we did it. We did everything perfectly as far as like timing everything with being on the show.
And I would imagine that from an investment standpoint, those investments or those investors, were those people that you already knew, or were those people who saw the show and was like, hey, I want to be a part of what you guys are doing?
Both. I would say mostly people that we've already, because as an entrepreneur, you're going to be part of your job is going to be raising capital. So like you're going to be talking with a lot of people just on the day, even prior to Shark Tank, I was talking to investors and all, like, so that's something that you're going to be doing all the time. So like being on Shark Tank was something that people actually saw the exposure to it. They see our sales, they see the opportunity. They now know that Botted is going to be a company that's going to be around for a while. It's going to be successful, and we're going to be hitting some, our next goal is to get a million in revenue. So like, we're really starting to grow this business and seeing all of the fruits kind of grow from this big opportunity. So this is being on the show and actually taking on investors and seeing how it's going. The investors are aware that this is the company, this is the thing that's going to work and exposed to. So a lot of our investors kind of came from, some of them came from the show seeing that, but also some of them also were people that I knew prior to being on the show.
Got it. And I know, just kind of being respectful of your time, coming up on an hour here, just try to, as a couple last questions for you, maybe number one, what's the future about it? What can we all expect from, maybe some new product that you guys are doing, or what does, I guess, the future hold, I guess, coming up for Botted, especially as we go into the new year here?
Yeah. So, of course, we're continuing to grow out some of the features that we have on Botted, where we're launching different types of bots that you can set up very quickly. We just did, like, for example, we like to call them like mini bots. Mini bots are bots that are already set up and ready for you just to launch in seconds. So we're expanding on that menu. We're expanding out on our B2B features. So we just launched more features that'll allow businesses to be able to run bots based off, on their own website and all these other things. So like we're exposing our technologies to many different features like that. And also we're expanding our team. We're hiring new team members now on the engineering side, support side, just from HR, all these different things that we're really starting to grow our business and be exposed to that. So that's something that over the next year, we're excited, especially with businesses continuing to grow our B2B sales. So like if we look forward to seeing 2024 kind of continue to take off about it.
Nice. And then in terms of following you guys, how can people follow you? I'm sure that you guys have a LinkedIn, different social medias, IG, whatnot. How can people follow Botted if they want to, just kind of learn more, keep up to date with the latest and greatest with you guys?
Absolutely. If you just go to, you can follow us on IG or TikTok, just botted.automation. You can find us, and we're just we always make sure that we keep everybody up to date on our latest features, latest technology, things that we're doing. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can just reach out to me. mo@botted.com is my email address. Feel free to reach out to me. If you have questions about automation, if you have concerns about automations, about like, hey, what's the future of AI? All those different things. We help people kind of educate them on, how we're looking to help people in the automation space. We know that if by 2026, if you don't know how to set up a bot, then you're going to be kind of behind. You're not even going to probably be able to buy groceries online, let alone like concert tickets and other stuff like that. That's hard now. So like we're helping the common person even that playing field by setting up a bot for them and helping them
Nice.
grow their business.
Nice, nice, nice. So I'll definitely,
Yeah.
as when the interview comes out, put those handles in the description
Okay.
so that people can reach out and follow you if that's something that they want to do. I guess the last question,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to maybe aspiring entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs as it relates to trying to, just hey, just keep at it, keep going, and just any other advice that you may have given or may, I guess, think to give to those entrepreneurs.
Yes. So the advice I love to give is, what are you doing for your business to make it successful? Because like everybody can, like I said, everybody wants money, everybody wants the investment, everybody wants these things that can say like, hey, if I had this, I'll be able to accomplish so much more. Which investments for sure is going to help scale your business, but that comes at a cost.
Yeah.
So what I like to tell entrepreneurs, especially now, and especially in a tough market where raising capital is not as easy as it used to be. So I would say, like, what are you doing for your business to see it grow? Are you putting in the time? Are you putting in the energy? Are you asking friends to help? Or what are you doing to really help it grow outside of, taking more money? Because a lot of people are like, hey, I got my 9 to 5. I can't quit my job. I can't do this full time. I understand that, but you have to be able to put in that time. You have to be able to put in that your talent to be able to see something grow. So I tell entrepreneurs to try to take the mindset off of raising capital and put it onto your business. See what the customers are doing. Can you build the technology? Can you build a product that you can sell? What is your customer saying about your product? Those are things that investors are going to sniff that out very, very quickly. So I would say, before you even start talking to investors, make sure that you have done everything, you've exhausted every single effort personally that you can do to build your business to where to make it successful. Once you do that, you'll look at everything like, wow, I've actually done a lot. The money will just roll in. Trust me,
Yeah.
like it'll just. We were working on Body for years. I mean, years of building this technology. I know people look at us, maybe they just rolled out of bed and went on Shark Tank and got investments. No, it's not that easy, and it's something that you got to put in the time, you got to put in the effort. You're going to go through a lot of grind. You're going to go through a lot of ups and downs, more downs than anything. So like it's something that you just got to prepare yourself for. But if you enjoy doing it, if you're passionate about doing it, I'm telling you, I wake up every single day happy that I'm working on Body, that I have a home I can live in, I have a place I can stay. So like the food on the table, like those are things that I'm excited about, because like I know that Body is providing that for me. And I know that Body is something that I own, that's something that I built, and that's something that I work day to day on. So like that's something that I'm excited about. As an entrepreneur, that's your goal, is to say like, hey, can I make a living off what I've been able to build? So I can say that with Body, and every day we continue to work towards building that even more and more, and we will.
Right. Nice. No, I love it. I love it. I think that's a good way to go out to the audience. Again, I appreciate you, Mo, for again just kind of doing an interview, and I think the audience will definitely get a lot out of this one. So
I
until
hope
next
so.
time, audience, take care.